What up, sports fans? I'm Paul Camacho, and this is the Macho Sports Report, where I talk to you about the sports stories that matter to me, hopefully matter to you. Okay, everyone, NFL season has just started. Thanks, Captain Obvious. Now, if you're one of the 75 million people who have jumped onto fantasy football this year, chances are you might be content with the team that you drafted. And that's great. If you like your team that stands right now, good for you. But I hope you don't expect to just leave your fantasy team unattended and then just win your league. Oh no, my friends. Drafting your team was only the beginning. Now, I know what some of you novice fantasy owners must be thinking right now. I've made a huge mistake. No, you're fine. Because I'll say this right now. Fantasy sports is as much of a time suck as you want it to be. People who spend mere minutes doing their homework and maintaining their teams have as good a chance of fantasy success as those who spend hours doing the same. So here are a few words of advice from a fantasy football veteran, taken with a grain of salt, in no particular order. Number 1, so you've drafted your roster. What's your bye week situation look like? There are usually two schools of thought when it comes to bye weeks. There are those who built their fantasy teams with bye weeks in mind and don't want to be caught with their pants down if a bevy of fantasy starters share the same bye week. And then there are those who didn't and will likely be screwed on one particular bye week. If you want to win every week, you should be wary of that one bye week, where a lot of players will be unavailable and prepare to make a few moves on the waiver wire when that week arrives. However, if you're fine with sacrificing one game to keep a good roster of fantasy players, then by all means, ignore this advice. Just pray that one loss doesn't kick you out of the postseason. Number 2, don't second guess yourself once your rosters are set. It's a common occurrence for many fantasy owners. You bench a player you think will do poorly, and he goes off for a stud performance. Conversely, you start a player expecting a huge day, and he lays an egg. Try not to let that get to you. Sometimes it happens. Just breathe, calm down, and know that the fates unknown control all and you are powerless to stop them. Joking. But look, if your potential star players start to struggle on any given week, just remember. Number 3, don't overreact to change a struggling roster from week to week. The worst thing you can do is play knee-jerk fantasy owner and decide to replace half of your roster every week, especially if you find yourself on the losing side more often than you'd like. Sometimes the best players you have can struggle for no good reason, but that doesn't mean abandoning them at a moment's notice in a last-ditch effort to fix your team. This is where fantasy analysis on the big sites are your friend. They'll give you a more informed opinion on whether to write it out with certain struggling stars, or to cut bait while you still can. And if the latter just so happens to be your ultimate decision, this next piece of advice is vital. Number 4, keep an eye on your waiver wire. Once upon a time, in my first year of fantasy football, I didn't have the best roster to speak of. My best running back was Jerome Bettis, and he was barely 1,000-yard back at the time. So I decided to scour the waiver wire for better options. For whatever reason, another fantasy owner had dropped Clinton Portis from this team. It was his rookie season, and he hadn't hit his stride yet, but he was about to. And funnily enough, that other owner told me he was a guy to look out for at the beginning of the season. So I picked him up. He helped me salvage a subpar season, and he ended up being a bona fide keeper for the next 3 years. Moral of the story? Never take the waiver wire for granted. There could be a diamond in the rough that'll be able to help you win a championship. Number 5, pay attention to the injury report on Sundays. This is such a simple thing, but it shoots countless owners in the foot every week. There are many starters that could be held out of a game at any given Sunday due to nagging injuries, family emergencies, or just straight up human stupidity. Whatever the reason, check who on your team is available and in what capacity. It could be the difference between a win or a loss. Anyway, that's all I got. Was this at all helpful to you? Or did you think I was stupid to think I needed to say any of this out loud? Either way, let me know in the comment section below. And hey, if you like what you saw, like and subscribe. I'm Paulo Camacho, and this has been the Macho Sports Report. Peace out, sports fans!